We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Would be about the subject of the Mothman. I am not saying I'm a professional or that I've done research as much as Andy Colvin or other people, but I was thinking that perhaps one thing nobody has considered about what was the Mothman was that it wasn't any kind of a living creature, as far as that it was a bird or it was some sort of a mutation of a bird. Has anybody considered the idea that it could have been a demon? A demon is basically what we know to be one of the fallen angels of Satan. Satan's followers came with him to earth after God cast him out of heaven. And I base my theory on what we've seen in churches. Gargoyles. We know for a fact there were dragons early in history, early time of history. And when you look at the wings on the Mothman and the fact his eyes are red, these are two characteristics of a demon, because a lot of people have described that they have very distinctive pointed wings on their back and they have ugly faces and so forth. But I don't think anybody from John Keel to Andy Colvin or anybody else who's researched about the Mothman have ever come up with this theory that it could have been a demon, instead of it being some sort of a mutated creature of some kind that somehow or another they think indirectly it has ties to UFOs. I don't laugh that off in itself, because John Keel said when the Mothman was seen in 1966, he was seeing several UFOs in the area. And then you had him saying around the late 60s, early 70s, they started spotting men in black. And they have concluded that men in black do have direct ties to unidentified flying objects, aliens, their mannerisms, how they look, how they react to other people when they are spotted, implies that these are sort of like, they could be androids, they could be aliens disguised as humans who are trying to intimidate eyewitnesses not to talk about it. And I think we've seen proof that technology, if it is alien based, had to have some origin, and I believe strongly that it's the demons, the followers of Satan. I'll go back to history in terms of early on. This is the time when the flood happened. In the Bible it says that God destroyed the earth because men were unstoppingly evil all the time. They did evil constantly. And there's another reason too. They said at the time of Noah there were giants in the earth. And scholars have found proof in the Bible of a race of humans that were created. It said that the sons of men joined with human women, and created a new kind of a superhuman. Now, the sons of men, interpreting what that means, is not human beings. They're talking about demons, because it was Satan's plan to create another race of humans. What purpose would that possibly serve? Well, it was to destroy the genealogy of what would be the birth of Jesus Christ on earth, because they knew if they polluted or distorted the human gene itself, that Jesus never would have satisfied God's wrath for sin. And it even says in the Bible that there was a name given to these superhumans. They were called Nephilims. And all of this is proof positive that Satan and his followers had a physical presence in human history, because there's no way they could have joined with women unless they physically were there, unless they're saying they were possessed by demons. But maybe what we're looking at with the Mothman is one instance where a demon was able to transform itself or create some sort of a life form at that time in history, where they were trying to create even more chaos, because everybody was seeing UFOs at that time anyway. So Satan figured, well, maybe we can create a life form of some kind that would just totally blow the minds of human beings. And I think that's what resulted in the Mothman's creation. There's a place there outside of Point Pleasant in West Virginia. It's called the TNT. It's an old ammunitions factory where they used to build, weapons. Ammunition was made there. And in the years after the war, after the Vietnam War, I guess, it was closed down, and they designated it as a disaster area, because all of that chemical, all the rest of it, it started seeping into the groundwater, and it became unusable. And this is the speculation, the hypothesis of Andy Colvin even today, that the Mothman was a bird. It was mutated from, I guess, having drank these waters. It mutated him into something else. But the philosophy of it being a demon makes more sense, because demons already have this configuration as an entity. It has definitive wings. Yes, they look human because they are angels. And if Lucifer was going to create some sort of a hybrid of a fallen angel, then it would have to be something that looks human, but it would have to have other distinctions that people have seen in demons and gargoyles and other things throughout history. So it has all these characteristic references to a demon. And though people say it had wings, well, we know for a fact that angels have wings, because the Bible talks about that. And if that's proof positive to anybody that this creature could have been, or could have been, a demon who reshaped themselves into something else. In other words, all of it could have had one reason or one purpose: to continue to create more just really uncertainty about what was happening in humanity, as far as what was going to happen in the future. And the oddity is, nobody found any remains of this creature, so you can't put to rest that it ever died, because we know angels do not die. They're immortal. So very likely, if you're hearing reports of the Mothman being seen again even today after 50 years, it's not impossible to think that it was a demon, because demons do not have lifespans. Living creatures, whatever it is, would not have survived past one lifespan, because there'd be no way for them to reproduce themselves. If there were, in this situation, another type of crane that was similar to this, but it wasn't mutated, it wouldn't have created another mutation. That's kind of ridiculous to think that. But a gargoyle, if you've seen some on these large churches, cathedrals, people say these were created only to scare off spirits. But everything created has to have some origin. It has to have some originality of where did they create this thing from? Where did they base this conceptual, grotesque figure from? Where did it come from? And I say it's because over the centuries, men have seen demons in physical form, and that's where they created gargoyles. Look at a gargoyle. What does it have? It has distinctive wings. It has, in most cases, glowing eyes. Definitely has arms and legs. All of that point blank describes the Mothman himself. Maybe someday Andy Colvin might watch my video, or somebody he knows might see it and share it with him, because I think he'd probably want to know if such a thing is even conceivably possible, that maybe the Mothman was nothing supernatural as far as it was a mutation, but that it was some sort of a transformed demon whose intent was to create more distrust, chaos. In other words, to derange people's minds into thinking of something that it, because if that's what they're seeing, then it has to be something other than this conception that it was a mutated bird. And to say it had red eyes, that means they were glowing. Not that they just happened to, by chance, see it in the shadows and somehow they saw some redness around the eyes. It means they were glowing enough they could see it. And there's nothing else I know that even comes close to this except for a demon. A demon has eyes that glow because this is usually in history how they've always described demons that way. They have glowing eyes, they have very distinct pointed wings, and they have arms, and they have legs. And all of that, in a nutshell, is a Mothman. That's what is described. When Art Bell interviewed John Keel on radio back in the early millennial time, early 2000s, he was mentioning a photograph that was taken on 9/11, and they showed a bird. A bird was flying around the World Trade Centers, or near the Trade Centers, before it happened. And he said that it looked like a pterodactyl. In the years since, some people speculate, well, this could have been some faker who created a composite and then superimposed it into the photograph. So in other words, it's not really there, it's just somebody's fabrication of something that looks like a pterodactyl. It was very big, because there's two different pictures I've seen. One was it coming over a building, and then the other one was it was coming down a street. And you had traffic lights, and you had cars, and two separate buildings in the shot, and all the rest of it. And it looks more or less like a prehistoric creature of some kind, but so did demons in a lot of ways. Demons were smaller because of, how they showed them in gargoyles. But again, all of these seem to have traits of it being some sort of a mutated or transformed creature that very much resembles a gargoyle or a demon, and that it's not some kind of a mutated bird of some kind. So I enjoyed doing the video. I wanted to bring these facts to everyone's attention. Whoever studies Mothman, maybe you'll see the video and you'll think twice about, could this thing been something else? Could it have been possibly one of Lucifer's fallen angels, a demon? Because I contend that the sightings, the abductions of aliens are in reality, Lucifer is creating his master race again of Nephilims, and how else could he do what he does with people except how abductees describe the fact that they're impregnated, the creature is taken out of the mother's womb, all of the rest of these really bizarre things. Satan is the only one who would have any reason to do that, because he's trying to recreate this super race of people who he was working on doing back at the time that God saw what he was doing and he stopped it. He destroyed all human life. All creatures, including the dinosaurs, were stopped and killed off because he knew, I can't get these into the ark. So he had to annihilate the dinosaur in order to preserve at least most life forms on the planet. And then Noah's family was the only ones who survived because they were the only good people left on earth. And these references to giants and all the rest of it in the Bible, these all have direct ties to what aliens are doing. You know, and I don't think an alien's real. I think it's a demon. I think it's the fallen angels perverting something and trying to use it for their advantage, creating this false reality that there is life elsewhere. If God had created life elsewhere, I promise you, he would have given us a way of contacting them. He would have given us some idea of where they are in the universe. But it says God made the heavens and he made the earth. He didn't say, I made the heavens, I made the Pleiades, I made earth, I made this, that. He didn't say that. So that means, to me, he made one place with life on it, and that's here on earth, and that's it. So I'm hoping all of this gives you some broader viewpoint of what all of this could be, and not so much it's just one thing or the other, because atheists, people who have no beliefs at all, they'll believe anything you tell them. So I'm trying to bring about the fact that there's one God on this planet who is real, and that was Jesus Christ coming to earth as a man and dying for our sins. And he is the only one who did that for humanity. He gave his life for our sins. And if anything, that should prove to you that if Jesus said when he was here on earth there are other life forms, he would have told us. He told us everything else, but he never said that. So that means there is no one else. There's only us, human beings. That's it. So, yes, I know it says on my shirt, I've seen Mothman. Well, this is the only shirt I found that had an actual picture of the Mothman. And if you see on the bottom of the shirt, it says Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So, no, I haven't seen the Mothman, but honestly, I think what we're talking about is not a creature, it's a demon. It's a perverted joke that Satan perpetrated on those people in West Virginia, because he wanted to just create even more chaos than he had already created before. And abductions, everybody should really, really consider rethinking. Could this be not an alien life form, even though it looks alien? Could it be a perversion of Satan, making you believe it's something else, but it's only for his purposes of creating this super race? Abductees say over and over again they were allowed over time to see this child that the aliens created. Years later they see it grown up and they're like, oh, thankfully, and all this. All of this could just be Satan trying to say to people, you have a chance to see a child you've had, but it's going to be for my purposes, because it's going to be superhuman, it's going to be a giant, and this is the superhuman race that we're going to create. And over the last 50, 60 decades, or 5 or 6 decades, this is what Satan's been doing. Creating all these abductions, and then making you believe it's an alien that's actually been doing all this stuff. Yeah, I had an alien experience myself. I don't deny that. I saw something in my bedroom, and it could have been the same creature, but at 2 different places. Could have been me in bed that night seeing the alien, and then all of a sudden I have no other memories, and then I see another creature that is literally right in my face. It has the color distinction being albino white, but it could have been how people describe it. You know, on their spaceship, it's brilliantly white all the time. You very likely don't see very many instruments or anything else. That could have been my experience. But do I say they're alien? No, I do not say they're alien. I assume that they are demons, but because everybody else describes them this way, I'm like, that's Satan's modus operandi. He's using a standard perception of what these creatures look like, and all they are really are his demons, creating the illusion that you're actually being abducted, but it's all for his purpose. So, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I've really wanted to say something to people about what are these things? What is the Mothman? Maybe now it gives you a fresh perspective of what else it could be besides it being an alien or some kind of mutated creature of some kind. So thank you for watching today.
His name is Omran Daknesh, just 5 years old, and his feet barely hung over the edge of a seat in an ambulance. Dazed, he didn't cry as he wiped away blood and the dust of a building that collapsed around him in an airstrike. His silence somehow reminded the world today of its silence in the face of the atrocities in Aleppo. Omran was pulled out alive Wednesday. 5 other children died when the building they were in was hit during the relentless Syrian-Russian offensive on rebel-held areas in Aleppo. The image of Omran's face spread like wildfire on the internet. One tweet called him the real representative of the Syrian people.
Stop killing Syrian innocent people, civilian. Our children need to live in peace.
The doctor who treated Omran said today there were many more severe cases no one is paying attention to.
We need to protect our hospital, our doctors, our medical workers from airstrike.
Omran was recovering. His family now wants to escape. The same choice another boy's family made a year ago, Aylan Kurdi, whose body washed up on a beach. He too was a symbol of Syria's youngest victims. Now there's a new one. Tomorrow there may be another. Richard Engel, NBC News.
They've reported from around the world, challenged the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
Hai malah saya yang berubah hai ambil cuti selesai apa kenapa apa apa ada ya